The hidden letter. When Eleanor Grant turned 72, she decided to sell her family's old farmhouse in Maine. It was the place where generations had lived, loved, and left behind too many ghosts. But as she packed her late husband's belongings, she found an envelope sealed with red wax hidden beneath the floorboard. The handwriting on the front made her heart stop. It was her husband's, dated 1964, 10 years before they met. She hesitated before breaking the seal, unaware that inside was a truth buried for nearly half a century. A letter never meant to be found. A confession that would rewrite everything she believed about her marriage, her family, and herself. Because sometimes the past doesn't rest quietly. It waits patiently to be read. Stay with us until the end. The last line of this letter will change the way you see love and betrayal forever. Subscribe to Forbidden Family Truths before you forget. It costs nothing, but it keeps real stories like this alive. The House of Whispers. Eleanor moved through the empty farmhouse, her cane tapping softly against the old pine floors. Each creak sounded like a memory. The walls still smelled faintly of cedar and candle smoke, her husband Robert's scent. She opened drawers, folded old linens, and boxed up books. The house had stood for 120 years, surviving storms and births and funerals. But now, for the first time, it felt hollow. When she knelt to pack a trunk near the fireplace, she noticed a loose floorboard. Beneath it, tucked between beams, was a yellowed envelope sealed in wax. Her name wasn't on it, only the word "to her." Her fingers trembled. The wax was cracked with age, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Robert Grant. Why would her husband hide a letter like this? And who was her? She turned it over, sensing the pulse of a secret waiting to breathe again. The opening Eleanor sat at the kitchen table, the afternoon light turning everything gold and heavy. For a long time she just stared at the envelope. Then, with a single breath, she slid her finger beneath the seal. The sound it made, that tiny rip, felt like opening a wound. The paper inside was fragile, almost translucent. She unfolded it slowly, reading her husband's words written 50 years ago. To the one I never stopped thinking about, I promised myself I would bury this, but love doesn't stay buried. Eleanor blinked, her throat tightening. Her husband was writing to someone else. Her heart whispered the question her mind didn't want to form. Was there another woman? The first confession. "We met by accident," the letter continued. "In the spring of '64, before the war, you were wearing blue, the kind of blue that makes the sky jealous." Eleanor's eyes stung. She had never known this Robert, the poet, the dreamer. "I told myself it was nothing. But when I left for Vietnam, I wrote to you every week. You never replied, and I thought you'd forgotten me." He wrote of battles, not only on foreign soil, but within himself, between duty and desire, between silence and truth. "When I came home, I found you gone. Married," they said. "I swore I'd move on. But when I met Eleanor years later, I saw your eyes in hers." Eleanor dropped the letter. The room spun. Her husband had fallen in love with her because she reminded him of another woman. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered, "Who were you, and why did you haunt him for so long?" The name in the margins. Eleanor turned the page and saw a name scribbled faintly in the margin. Clara. The ink was faded, but the emotion behind it wasn't. She searched through Robert's old photo albums, heart pounding, and then she found her, a young woman with soft curls and eyes that mirrored her own. Clara. There was something uncanny in their resemblance, almost like looking at herself decades younger, but not quite. And then a realization cut through her like lightning. Clara wasn't a lover, she was family. Eleanor's pulse quickened as she returned to the letter. "You deserved to know, Clara. She never told you I was your father, and I wasn't brave enough to claim you." The paper trembled in her hands. Her husband had a daughter. The unspoken promise. Eleanor sat in silence for hours. The air grew cold around her. Robert had lived an entire life beside her, one filled with laughter, trust, and secrets. "I built a life with Eleanor," the letter continued, "not to erase you, but because she reminded me of you. I saw forgiveness in her eyes before I ever earned it." He wrote about trying to find Clara, but never succeeding. "If she's alive when I'm gone, tell her I kept every photograph." I never stopped loving her mother, or her Eleanor pressed the letter to her chest. The ache of betrayal blended with an unexpected tenderness. Maybe love isn't pure, maybe it's flawed, human, and still sacred. But now, one question remained. Was Clara still alive? Chapter 6. The search begins. For days, Eleanor combed through records, searching for any trace of Clara. She visited libraries, sifted through census archives, and followed paper trails across decades. Every lead ended cold until she found an obituary from 1998. Clara Matthews, survived by her daughter, Lily Matthews. Lily. Eleanor whispered the name as if it was sacred. If the timelines were right, Lily would be in her 40s now, the same age Clara had been in that photo. She dialed every Matthews in the state, her voice trembling each time she said, "I'm looking for Lily Matthews." It's about her mother. Most hung up, one didn't. A calm, cautious voice said, "This is Lily. Who's calling?" Chapter 7. The meeting. Lily agreed to meet her 2 days later in a small cafe overlooking the ocean. When Eleanor saw her, the resemblance was undeniable. The same grey eyes, the same quiet strength. They sat across from each other, two strangers connected by a secret neither had chosen. Eleanor slid the letter across the table. "This belonged to your grandfather." Lily's hands trembled as she read. Tears welled in her eyes. "My mother never spoke of him. She said he died before I was born." Eleanor shook her head gently. "He lived a long life, and he carried you in his heart until the end." The younger woman wept. "Then maybe he wasn't the villain she believed." Eleanor smiled sadly. "None of us are, my dear. We're just people who loved imperfectly." Chapter 8. The photograph. Lily returned to the farmhouse a week later. Together they placed Clara's photograph and the letter inside an old cedar box. Eleanor whispered, "Now both of them can rest." As they sealed the box and buried it beneath the oak tree in the backyard, the wind stirred, gentle, forgiving. "Some stories are meant to be told," Lily said softly, "even the ones that hurt." Eleanor nodded, "Especially those." For the first time in years, she felt her husband's presence, not haunting her, but thanking her. Chapter 9. The ring before leaving, Lily handed Eleanor a small velvet pouch. Inside was a gold ring, simple, worn, and engraved with 2 letters, R+C. "My mother kept this," Lily said. "I think he wanted you to have it." Eleanor closed her eyes. The metal was warm in her palm. It felt like both a confession and a blessing. She slipped it on her finger beside her wedding band. "I'll wear them both," she whispered, "because love isn't about ownership, it's about remembrance." Chapter 10. The last letter. Months later, Eleanor wrote her own letter, addressed to her. Inside, she placed Robert's confession, her own reflections, and a message for whoever found it next. "If you're reading this, know that truth isn't meant to destroy. It's meant to free. We spend our lives locking away what hurts us, but it's the unlocking that makes us whole." She sealed the envelope and placed it under the same floorboard where she'd found the first one. Then she whispered, "Now it's your turn to rest, Robert." Outside, the wind carried the scent of spring, new, forgiving, eternal.